Welcome to the deep dive, where we embark on these intellectual adventures, carefully excavating knowledge and trying to unearth surprising insights, all custom tailored for you, our perpetually curious listener.
Yeah, digging deep.
Exactly. And today we're delving into a topic that really does feel a lot like archaeology. I mean, picture this. You're on a delicate dig, right? Trying to learn something genuinely new, maybe profound, from a customer conversation.
Hmm.
The truth is down there, somewhere, like this ancient artifact that could, define your future, but it's incredibly fragile, so easily crushed or distorted.
That analogy is spot on. It
Yeah.
really couldn't be more apt. Because so many teams, they approach this delicate site, like you said, either with a metaphorical bulldozer and a crate of dynamite.
Right, just blasting away.
Yeah, asking these heavy-handed leading questions that just destroy any hope of finding the real insights. Or, the other extreme, they're so timid, they only use a soft toothwash, barely scratching the surface, flinching from the deep digging that's actually needed.
Afraid to break something.
Exactly. And the core challenge here, and it's a profound one for anyone trying to innovate, is that every single question you ask, every assumption you bring into that conversation
Hmm.
carries this very real possibility of biasing the person you're talking to.
Hmm.
And if you do that, if you subtly signal what you want to hear, well, you basically render the entire exercise pointless. The goal, our ultimate goal, has to be finding that unvarnished truth that helps a business really succeed, not just, confirming the biases we already walked in with.
And that's precisely why we're taking this deep dive into an absolutely essential resource today, the Mom Test by Rob Fitzpatrick. It's this powerful, almost counterintuitive shortcut to genuinely understanding your customers and, crucially, avoiding those common pitfalls,
That
the ones that lead to building products that, let's be honest, nobody actually buys.
happens all the time.
It does. Now, this isn't just some secret playbook for, venture-backed Silicon Valley startups. Whether you're a seasoned founder trying to pivot, maybe a product manager wrestling with a new feature, a mentor guiding others through that entrepreneurial maze, or simply someone out there listening with a new idea, burning a hole in your pocket, this deep dive is absolutely for you.
Right. We're hoping to give you some really practical tools here.
Yeah, we're going to equip you with immediately actionable tools to cut through the noise, bypass the polite lies, and get to the concrete, actionable facts you need to make, well, truly meaningful progress on your next big idea. So, let's maybe start by confronting a universal frustration, something I'm sure many of you listening can relate to. We all know we should talk to customers, right? It's like Startup
It's
101.
hammered into us.
Absolutely. Most of us even try to. We schedule the meetings, send the surveys, we nod along earnestly in conversations. Yet despite all that effort, all that precious time, and often significant investment, we still frequently end up pouring our hearts and souls into building stuff nobody actually buys. It's truly baffling sometimes.
Why does this persistent, costly cycle keep happening?
Well, it's more insidious than you might think, and frankly, it's a silent killer for countless ventures. Because bad customer conversations, they aren't just useless, that would almost be okay.
Wait, just a waste of time.
Yeah, but they're actually worse than useless. They become this powerful source of what we call false positives. Now, we've all heard that term false positives in data analysis, right? But in customer conversations, they're far more insidious than just a statistical blip.
How so?
They're those deceptively reassuring moments, those compliments or vague agreements that trick founders into believing they're absolutely on the right path. They convince them their idea is brilliant, that customers are just eagerly waiting for it.
That dangerous confirmation bias. Exactly. And this false confidence then triggers this cascade of massive overinvestment. Precious cash, irreplaceable time, the emotional energy of the whole team,
Hmm.
all poured into what turns out to be a mirage. It's a tragedy that plays out again and again, and it's devastating when it happens.
It truly is devastating. And perhaps the most powerful story, the most powerful testament to this, comes from the author of The Mom Test himself, Rob Fitzpatrick. He talks about his intensely personal experience with his first company, Habit. They were building social advertising tech.
Hmm.
He spent 3 grueling years on it. I mean, just think about that, 3 years of your life. During that time, they nearly ran out of investor money. They relocated internationally to be closer to their perceived market. They even survived a co-founder being deported.
Wow, that's intense.
Incredibly intense. And Rob, by his own admission, spent months talking to customers full time. He was doing the thing, right? And then after all that incredible slog, all that personal sacrifice, he learned he'd been doing it all wrong. It was, in his stark words, as if he may as well not have bothered. 3 years of effort, millions of dollars, emotional strain, all basically evaporated, largely due to misinformation gathered from these flawed conversations. It's just a stark, painful, and very real example of the immense cost of getting this wrong.
It really hammers the point home, doesn't it? That general advice, just talk to customers, well, it's well-intentioned, it sounds like common sense, but it's ultimately unhelpful without the crucial how.
Yeah, the practical steps.
Right. It's like that popular kid in school telling their nerdy friend to just be cooler. They forget to mention how to actually achieve that. The process of extracting genuine customer truth, it's inherently hard, it's incredibly easy to screw up, and customers, despite their absolute best intentions, are often hell-bent on lying to you.
But not maliciously, right?
No, not maliciously at all. It's simply human nature at play, combined with, frankly, poor questioning techniques from our side.
Yeah.
People want to be polite, they want to be supportive, and if you ask a leading question, if you reveal your ego, they'll instinctively give you the answer they think you want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
This is why having a structured, intentional approach, a genuine methodology for your archaeological dig, is not just vital, it's absolutely mission critical.
That makes perfect sense. We're not looking for cheerleaders. We need the real story, even if it's, a bit uncomfortable. So how do we equip ourselves to dig deeper without shattering that delicate truth?
Precisely. And that leads us directly to the solution the mom test offers.
It sounds so incredibly simple, almost deceptively so, but the core revelation of the mom test really flips everything we think we know about customer conversations right on its head.
It really does.
It's this profound truth. You shouldn't ask anyone whether your business is a good idea. And man, that hits founders, product managers, innovators like a ton of bricks. Because our ego desperately craves that validation. We want to be told we're brilliant.
Oh, absolutely. It's human nature.
This book doesn't just tell you not to ask your mom, though. It reveals the deep human reasons why even your most well-meaning customers will inadvertently mislead you, and why it's our job as innovators to actively disarm those biases and, uncover the unvarnished truth. That's the hard part, isn't it? Quieting your own need for approval.
It is the hardest part, definitely.
Yeah.
Because it requires genuine humility and a real commitment to learning over just being right. The mom test then gives us this set of simple, incredibly actionable rules for crafting questions that are so good, so unbiased, that even your mom, bless her heart, can't really lie to you about them.
Even mom.
Even mom. And the real beauty, the real power of this approach is that when you do it right, the person you're talking to often won't even realize you have a business idea. And this subtle but fundamental shift, it automatically leads to much better, more truthful answers because their responses aren't tainted by that desire to be polite or supportive or to simply give you what they think you want. You've basically disarmed the bias before it even gets a foothold.
So if the first step is accepting our own idea isn't the star of the show, how do we actually do that in a conversation? How do we disarm ourselves and our customers to get to that unfiltered truth? This brings us right to the first and probably the most foundational rule of the mom test. Talk about their life instead of your idea.
Rule number 1.
Crucial.
Yeah. This means the biggest, most common, and almost always fatal mistake you can make is mentioning your idea too soon. You absolutely have to shift the focus entirely onto them, onto their lives, their problems, their goals, their existing behaviors, their world. Let's walk through a classic example from the book to make this concrete. Building digital cookbooks for the iPad. Here's how a conversation might totally fail the mom test. And honestly, this scenario plays out in countless real-world pitches I've seen.
The son rushes to his mom, all excited. Mom, I have an idea for a business. Can I run it by you? Boom. Right there, he's exposed his ego, setting up the entire interaction for bias from the get-go.
Yep, the trap is set.
Then he asks, you like your iPad, right? You use it a lot. That's a leading question. It's practically begging for a yes. He pushes on, okay, so would you ever buy an app which was like a cookbook for your iPad? Another trap. Hypothetical, optimistic, painting this rosy future picture.
Asking for a prediction, basically.
Exactly. He even tries to push past her lukewarm response, saying, and it only costs $40 that's cheaper than those hardcovers on your shelf. Clearly trying to sell her on it, overcome objections. He keeps piling on features, basically pleading, please just say yes, I will not leave you alone until you do. It's just textbook what not to do.
And this is precisely why it fails so spectacularly. It becomes this landmine of false positives. The son's ego is completely exposed, biasing the whole thing from the first word. He's asking hypotheticals about the future, making leading statements, clearly telegraphing the answer he wants.
So what does mom do?
Well, mom, out of sheer love, politeness, maybe a desire to encourage her child, she offers these non-committal compliments. Things like, oh, well, yes, honey, that sounds amazing. She might even throw in feature requests to appear engaged, asking, will it have pictures of the recipes, just to seem interested.
Trying to be helpful.
Exactly. But the son, fueled by his own excitement, completely misinterprets these as validation. He collects this fistful of false positives that will actively mislead him down the wrong path. This kind of conversation isn't just useless, it's actively dangerous, because it convinces you to invest time and money based on lies. It's like convincing a drunk he's sober, definitely not an improvement, more like a dangerous delusion. It really shows why digging for truth needs delicate tools, not that bulldozer.
It's so clear now how that conversation was just doomed from the start. But okay, for a founder who's just heard talk about their life instead of your idea, the next logical question might be, right, but how do I eventually get from talking about their life to introducing my idea without biasing them? What's the natural progression there, and how does the second rule fit in?
That's a brilliant question, and it's exactly where the second rule becomes our essential guide. If the first rule sets the stage, the second rule dictates the script for actually digging for those precious facts. It's all about asking about specifics in the past instead of generics or opinions about the future.
Past specifics, got it.
This is absolutely crucial for getting concrete, verifiable data. Hypotheticals about what someone might do or predictions about their future behavior are, as we've seen, wildly unreliable. People's intentions rarely match their actual actions. Instead, we want to know what they actually did yesterday, last week, last month. Real behavior.
Okay, let's revisit that digital cookbook idea. But this time, the son passes the mom test, applying both rules effectively. He starts by asking, really casually, hey, Mom, how's that new iPad treating you? Just neutral, open-ended, no bias.
Nice and simple.
She says she loves it. He asks, what's the last thing you did on it? Getting specific about past actions, observable behavior. She says she was figuring out where she and her father could stay for a trip.
Okay, real task.
He follows up naturally, did you use an app for that? She says, no, just Google, didn't even know there was an app for that kind of thing. He then digs deeper, still focusing on her past behavior. Where did you find out about the other ones you use?
Good question.
She mentions, oh, the Sunday paper has a section on the apps of the week. Finally, he brings up cookbooks naturally, still without mentioning his idea. Hey, by the way, I saw a couple new cookbooks on the shelf. Where did those come from?
Smooth transition.
She replies they're gifts, then adds, rather pointedly, as if I need another lasagna recipe at my age. And then the killer question. What's the last cookbook you did buy for yourself? She says a vegan cookbook, specifically because her father is trying to eat healthier.
Wow. Just by shifting those questions, it's like hitting a vein of gold dust, real, actionable insights that could totally change the business direction, and he never even mentioned the product.
Yeah.
That's genuinely powerful.
Totally.
This corrected conversation, applying both rules, reveals so much actionable intelligence. First, Mom uses Google, not the App Store, for discovery that's a major risk for an App Store-centric plan.
Huge risk.
Second, traditional PR, like the Sunday paper, might actually be a viable, if unexpected, marketing channel for her demographic. We also find out older users maybe don't need generic recipes. Cookbooks for them are often gifts. This immediately suggests maybe a gift market focus or targeting younger cooks who haven't memorized lasagna yet.
Right.
And most importantly, that vegan cookbook insight. It reveals a critical nuance. Even experienced chefs might still buy specialized or niche cookbooks for very specific compelling reasons, like family health. This single conversation moved them from a vague premise, old people like cookbooks and iPads, to a much higher fidelity vision with identified risks and promising leads. It generated actionable insight instead of that dangerous rope to hang ourselves. This is what a successful archaeological dig actually looks like.
That's a phenomenal breakdown. And kind of wrapping these first two rules together, acting as the glue that holds the whole archaeological process together, is the third and perhaps most deceptively simple rule. Talk less and listen more.
Ah, yes, the classic.
I hear talk less, listen more, and it sounds like pure wisdom, right? But for an entrepreneur who's passionate about their vision, it must feel incredibly counterintuitive, almost like holding back a secret weapon. How do you combat that natural urge to pitch when you're supposed to be listening? Because I imagine that's where a lot of people stumble.
You've absolutely nailed the internal struggle. It's one of the biggest challenges. That urge to pitch, to evangelize, to explain your brilliant solution, it's incredibly powerful, and it often comes from a good place, passion.
Right, you believe in it.
Exactly. But it's precisely that passion, if it's unchecked, that can bias your whole excavation. The ultimate goal here is to deeply understand your customers' motivations, their behaviors, their challenges. That requires active listening and a distinct, almost Zen-like absence of pitching. This rule isn't just a polite suggestion. It's the fundamental enabler for applying the first two effectively.
How so?
Well, if you're constantly talking, if you're filling the air with your ideas, your questions aren't truly open anymore, are they?
Mm-hmm.
And you're certainly not creating the space for those concrete facts about their past lives to just naturally emerge. You're not giving them room to reveal the true landscape of their problems. It's like trying to listen for faint whispers while constantly shouting your own name. You just drown everything out.
That's a great analogy. So, when all three of these rules are applied diligently, when you're really digging with precision, what's the ultimate measure of a useful conversation? What are we looking to find in our archaeological site at the end of the day?
It really boils down to this.
Yeah.
A truly useful conversation yields concrete facts about our customers' lives and worldviews.
Facts, not opinions.
Exactly. These aren't opinions or hypotheticals, but real, verifiable data points that allow us to genuinely improve our business, to iterate, to pivot, or maybe even to abandon an idea before it consumes us. It moves us from that vague, untested premise like old people like cookbooks and iPads to a higher fidelity vision with clearly identified risks and promising leads to pursue. It's about getting specific, getting real, so we can act with actual confidence based on evidence. Okay, so even when you're diligently applying the mom test rules, even when you're being the most careful archaeologist, conversations can still get derailed. There are these three treacherous types of bad data that consistently lead to false positives, which, as we discussed, are the most dangerous and sometimes even false negatives.
The traps.
The traps, exactly. Compliments, fluff, and ideas or feature requests. You might inadvertently invite them yourself with a poorly phrased question, or maybe you get excited and slip into pitching mode, or the conversation just gets stuck in hypothetical la-la land. The key, once you learn to spot them, is to recognize them instantly and know how to pivot back to truth-seeking. These are like the weeds in your archaeological dig, ready to choke out the delicate insights if you let them.
Let's start with compliments then. Described as the fool's gold of customer learning. They feel great, right? Like you've struck it rich. But they're utterly worthless as data. Why are they so devoid of value?
Well, people, even when they genuinely like you and maybe even your idea, tend to lie. Not necessarily maliciously, as we said.
Right, just being nice.
Yeah, they want to be supportive, they want to protect your feelings, or maybe your own excitement is just infectious and they feel they should mirror it. I mean, think about it. Even venture capitalists, who are literally professional judges of the future, who spend all day assessing ideas, they're often wrong.
Very often.
So if a VC's informed opinion is probably wrong half the time, what real weight can some random person's casual compliment truly have? Basically none.
Okay, let me set the scene with a contrast, something I bet many founders will recognize immediately. Imagine a bad conversation. You've just nailed your pitch, and that's it. It's like X for Y, but better because of Z, and it integrates with A, B, and C. You're beaming, feeling brilliant.
Waiting for the praise.
Exactly. The person you're talking to responds, that's cool, love it, sounds great. And you, the founder, you think, I am a genius. This sounds terrific. Keep me in the loop. You leave convinced you're the next Steve Jobs, and back at the office you tell your team, that meeting went really well. They said they loved it. Everybody loves it. You've just taken pure, meaningless compliments and mistaken them for rock-solid validation. Fool's gold right there.
And that, tragically, is a well-trodden road straight to ruin. A good conversation, on the other hand, anticipates these pitfalls and prepares you to recover. Let's say you slip into pitch mode. Hey, it happens to the best of us. You catch yourself. Rats, I just slipped into pitch mode. Okay, let's try to recover this.
Okay.
When they inevitably compliment you, that's really cool. I love it. You immediately apologize. Whoops, really sorry about that. I got excited and started pitching. Listen, you guys seem to be doing a good job in this space. Do you mind if I ask how you're dealing with this stuff at the moment?
Pivot back.
Exactly. You're not just deflecting the compliment. You're actively apologizing for biasing them and pivoting right back to learning about their existing solutions, their current difficulties. This shows them you're serious about understanding their world, not just seeking approval for yours. Ignoring compliments should be easy, but it's really not, because we desperately want to hear them. So instead, look for the symptoms. The quick thanks, the relieved, I'm glad you like it, or that glowing report back at the office, that meeting went really well. If you hear those, always push yourself to get specific, to differentiate real, actionable data from those vacuous fibs. What exactly did they like? How would it fit into their daily routine? What problems would it specifically solve that they're currently trying to fix right now? If you can't get specific answers, guess what? It was just a compliment. Move on.
Next up in our bad data trio is fluff. And this comes in three sort of cuddly but ultimately misleading shapes that can hide the true artifacts in your dig. There are generic claims like "I usually" or "I always."
The ideal self.
Yeah. Then future tense promises such as "I would definitely buy that," and hypothetical maybes like "I might" or "I could." The book calls these wildly optimistic and incredibly misleading because people tend to describe themselves as who they want to be, not who they actually are. We all want to be the person who gets up at 5 a.m. to exercise, but, how many of us actually do it consistently?
Very few. And the world's most deadly fluff, the one that has truly sunk countless ventures, is undeniably, I would definitely buy that. It sounds so concrete, doesn't it? So encouraging. But has led to millions of bucks lost, including being a major trap for Rob Fitzpatrick's first company, Habit.
Wow.
This phrase, and others like it, are just pure over-optimism, a projection of an ideal future self. They're often induced by fluff-generating questions we ask like, do you ever? The fundamental problem isn't always asking these questions, it's in believing the fluffy answers you get back. The fix, as always, is to anchor them. Anchor them to specifics in the past. We need to dig past the aspirations and get right down to the actual actions.
So how do we anchor that generic fluff then? If you ask, "Do you ever X?" and they give you a fluffy answer like, "Oh yeah, all the time," what's your immediate follow-up to cut through that?
Your immediate follow-up should almost always be, oh yeah, when's the last time that happened? This simple question immediately shifts the conversation from hypotheticals and aspirational statements to concrete past actions. It's like a quick surgical strike against the fluff. A great example of anchoring fluff comes with the inbox zero zealot. You know the type. Someone might proudly claim, oh, I'm an inbox zero zealot. It's totally changed my life. My productivity is through the roof. Classic, generic, fluffy claim about their ideal self.
Right.
To anchor it, you could playfully ask, haha, nice. What's your inbox at right now? They might sheepishly look and say, it looks like about 10 that have come in since this morning. Boom! Now you have a fact. 10 new emails is definitely not inbox zero.
Got it.
Then you dig deeper. When's the last time it totally fell apart for you? Like, what was happening when you suddenly had 500 unread emails? This starts to reveal the edge cases, the times when their problem is severe, contrasting with their ideal self-perception. You've gone from a generic, aspirational claim to understanding their actual behavior and the specific pain points where their system truly breaks down. That's an invaluable piece of the archaeological puzzle right there.
That's a fantastic illustration. Let's consider another vivid example that really captures this essence of consumer hypocrisy and the danger of fluff. The mobile loyalty app idea. Imagine you're in a cafe and you overhear someone loudly complaining, clearly frustrated, "Which idiot decided it was a good idea to make me carry around 1,000 cafe loyalty cards? My wallet's bursting." A classic, clear problem statement. You've just stumbled upon a potential customer with a clearly articulated pain. Jackpot, right?
Well, this is exactly where most founders, bubbling with excitement for their brilliant solution, stumble. A bad conversation here would be to immediately jump in and pitch, whoa, hey, I'm building a mobile app that consolidates all those loyalty cards. Do you think you would use something like that?
And they'd say,
They'd almost certainly respond with a deadly fluff. Heck yes, it's about time. I would definitely use that. And boom, you've just wasted a perfect learning opportunity, trading it for a fluffy, future tense promise that cost them absolutely nothing to give you.
what's the good conversation?
A good conversation anchors their past behaviors and current reality. It's crazy, right? My wallet is like 2 feet thick with those things. Hey, have you ever actually tried any of those loyalty apps for your phone? I've seen a few around. If they say no, you might even push them gently. No. Huh. Why not? Have you looked into them at all? Would you download one now if I showed you one?
Testing the commitment.
Exactly. This quickly reveals their true motivation, or, more often, their apathy. The crucial lesson here is, if they haven't already looked for ways to solve their problem, if they haven't invested any time or effort into it themselves, they're highly unlikely to look for, or buy, yours. You must reject those generic claims and anchor them firmly to the life they already lead, not the one they aspire to.
Okay, finally, we come to ideas and feature requests. Now, once customers flip to your side and start getting excited about your potential solution, they adore giving us more ideas and feature requests. It feels great, like they're co-creating with you, helping you build the perfect product. But the challenge is you should never just rush to add them to your to-do list.
Oh, this is such a dangerous trap.
Once customers start giving you those ideas and feature requests, it's easy to feel like you've struck gold, but this is where that archaeological analogy becomes critical again, isn't it? You don't just grab that shiny new artifact and toss it onto your to-do pile. You have to carefully dig around it, understand its context, and ask, what does this piece really tell us about the deeper site? What's the underlying need?
Exactly right. Feature creep is a notorious startup killer. It's a quick way to build a bloated product that tries to be everything to everyone and ends up being nothing truly valuable to anyone specific. The real value isn't in collecting a laundry list of features. It's in understanding the motivations behind the request. Your job isn't to obey every command or fulfill every wish. It's to uncover the root problem that the requested feature is trying to solve. What's the actual pain behind their suggestion?
Rob Fitzpatrick's own experience with MTV and an analytics dashboard perfectly illustrates this costly mistake. MTV told him they needed analytics and reports, saying it was a huge pain point for them. His mistake. Accepting that feature request at face value without digging deeper into the crucial why. So he spent 3 dedicated months building the shiny new analytics dashboard, customized exactly to their request, thinking they had absolutely nailed it. He was probably feeling pretty good about it.
He was, and why wouldn't he be? He delivered exactly what they asked for. But the painful learning process that followed was, well, agonizing. MTV kept calling every Friday not to use the amazing dashboard or to ask for CSVs and PDFs of the data, completely ignoring the beautiful self-serve tool he'd built for them.
Oh, wow. So why?
It turned out they didn't actually want to use the analytics to understand their data or drive internal decisions at all. They wanted to keep their own clients happy by emailing them fancy branded reports as proof of performance. They needed a reporting generator, not an analytics dashboard.
Completely different need.
Totally different. And this misunderstanding wasted 3 precious months of development time, money, team morale. All because he didn't ask why. It just underscores the critical importance of questions like, why do you want that? What would that let you do that you can't do now? Oh, and crucially, how are you coping without it? What's your current workaround? Ideas and feature requests are signals to be explored to dig into the underlying problem, not mandates to be obeyed. If someone describes something as the worst part of my day, that's your bright flashing sign to stop, listen, and truly dig into why before you even think about building anything.
Okay, so once we've learned the ropes of unbiased questioning and we're diligently avoiding bad data like compliments and fluff, there's this new trap that many people fall into. Overcompensating. They start asking only trivial, completely non-biasing questions that don't actually move the business forward at all.
Right, playing it too safe.
Exactly. Asking someone their shoe size won't bias them, sure, but it probably won't help you build a better accounting software either. We need to apply the mom test principles to the questions that really matter, the ones that could fundamentally alter your path. This is about knowing where to focus your archaeological efforts, not just digging random holes anywhere.
This is where we absolutely need to identify the world-rocking, scary questions that we might instinctively be shrinking away from. These are the uncomfortable truths that, if they turn out to be wrong, could unravel your entire business concept.
How do you find those?
The best way is often through thought experiments.
Okay.
Imagine, just for a moment, that your company has failed catastrophically. Why? What was the ultimate fatal flaw? Now flip it. Imagine it's a huge, undeniable success. What specific, maybe not obvious things had to be true for it to get there? The answers to these thought experiments should point you directly to those critical, often uncomfortable pieces of information you need to validate. You know it's an important question when its answer has the potential to completely change or even disprove your entire business model. Honestly, every single conversation you have, especially early on, should include at least one question that could potentially destroy your currently imagined business. That's how you know you're aiming for real insight, not just confirmation.
And sometimes those scary questions are ones we actively avoid, either consciously or subconsciously, maybe because we just don't want to hear the potential bad news. Rob Fitzpatrick shares another powerful and very costly personal anecdote about this exact thing. One of his companies had some legal ambiguities around content ownership. It was, theoretically okay, he felt, but it lacked strong legal precedence. He admitted he was always a bit nervous about it in the back of his mind.
That little nagging feeling.
Exactly. Even when talking with execs, creatives, tech teams, and all his early customer conversations, he never asked to talk to their lawyers. That, for him, was a scary question he actively shrunk from, a vital piece of the puzzle he avoided excavating. And not asking it, he estimates, cost the company at least $500,000 down the line in legal issues.
Ouch. That's a painful lesson.
It's a stark reminder that you are allowed to ask about money, about legalities, about these other crucial, potentially uncomfortable questions, especially those involving financial realities or major roadblocks. You're a startup. It's not just okay, it's necessary to ask tough questions to get to the truth.
Which brings us to the idea of learning to love bad news. It feels incredibly counterintuitive, right? If you have only one shot at something, bad news is, well, bad, obviously. But in early stage validation, in this phase of archaeological discovery, learning that your core beliefs are wrong is not a failure. It's actually a massive time-saving and money-saving triumph.
How so? Reframe that for us.
Well, think of it this way. If you spend, say, $5,000 learning that an idea is a dead end, finding out that the artifact you thought was gold is actually just worthless pyrite, you effectively saved $45,000 compared to sinking the full $50,000 into a doomed venture. Only the market, through real actions and behaviors, truly knows if your business will work. Not opinions, not compliments, not future promises. You're searching for truth, not trying to be right. Embracing bad news is simply your fastest path to that truth.
That's a really powerful reframe. So if we're embracing bad news, what do the best responses actually sound like in these early stages? This leads to what the book calls the meh versus wow rule. If you get responses like, oh, I'm not so sure about that, or even just, that's pretty neat, these lukewarm reactions are actually some of the best responses you can get in early learning.
It sounds crazy, but yes, they're crystal clear signals of apathy.
Why is apathy good here?
Because for someone in sales, obviously, a lukewarm response is terrible, no sale.
Right.
But for learning, for a founder trying to uncover market truth, it's perfectly reliable information. It's a clear, unambiguous signal that you haven't hit a real nerve, you haven't found a burning problem. The classic error here is to see that, and immediately up your game, start pitching harder, try to convert them into an excited prospect.
Trying to sell them on it.
Exactly. But that only generates more false positives. Instead, you need to dig into the apathy. Why don't they care? Is the problem just not a big deal for them? Are they the wrong customer segment entirely? Are they skeptical of your potential approach? Those are the real learnings, far more valuable than any forced compliment. You simply cannot build a sustainable business on a foundation of meh. You need waha.
Another common pitfall, kind of related to not asking those scary, big picture questions, is avoiding premature zoom. This is where we get stuck digging into unimportant details before truly understanding the big picture of a customer's life and priorities. Lots of people have problems they'll happily tell you about, but they don't actually care enough to fix them.
Right, they're just minor annoyances.
Exactly. If you zoom in too quickly on a specific detail, you might validate a top problem within that narrow context, but your customer won't ever act on it because it's simply not high enough on their overall priority list to warrant action or, crucially, payment. You're finding a small, interesting artifact, maybe, but it's not part of the main treasure hoard. Let's illustrate this with a really, really bad conversation about a fitness app. The founder immediately zooms in, asking someone who openly admits they never exercise about their biggest problem with going to the gym.
Okay, already off track.
Right. The customer, being polite and wanting to be helpful, maybe says convenience, and then hypothetically ranks convenience as an important factor if they were to go to the gym. The founder leaves the conversation thinking they validated a crucial need. Convenience is key, and goes off to build an app for exercising conveniently at home.
But the fallacy is so clear. Even though commute time might technically be the biggest problem with getting in shape, the whole area of fitness just isn't something I care about enough to act on. Their number one fitness problem is still an unimportant one in the grand scheme of their actual life. You validated a problem, yes, but not a market.
So what's the better approach?
A good conversation here would start much broader. What are your big goals and focuses right now? What's taking up most of your mental energy these days? If fitness isn't even on their list, if it's all work, house renovations, marriage planning, you quickly identify them as a non-customer for your fitness app, and you move on. No wasted time, no false positives. You've quickly assessed the overall site before digging specific, potentially irrelevant trenches.
And this premature zoom principle applies differently to different customer segments too, right? For example, if you're building marketing tools for small businesses, you can probably assume that marketing is always a top three problem for them. So you might be able to safely zoom in relatively quickly. What are your big problems with marketing right now?
Generally, yes, that's a safer bet. But if you're talking to, say, bloggers, where monetization strategies and motivations vary wildly, some are just hobbyists, some are professionals,
Okay.
you absolutely need to start much more generic to establish their actual context first.
Why a difference?
Because, as Rob Fitzpatrick uses his own blog as an example, if you ask a hobby blogger like him about top problems with marketing your blog, you'll get misleading answers. He writes for fun, not profit. He'll give you fluff about things he might do if he were more serious, which doesn't help you. Instead, start broad. What are the top problems or maybe the biggest joys with your blog right now? You might hear about Google Reader disappearing years ago, or maybe their writing interest is waning, or perhaps just the simple joy of connecting with readers. Then, once they've revealed their current focus, you can zoom in. So what are you doing about that? If they say nothing, that's a key signal. You can then use specific "does this problem matter" questions like, how seriously do you take your blog? Do you make money from it? Or what are the 3 big things you're trying to fix or improve right now with your blog? This quickly assesses if it's a must-solve problem for them or just a nice-to-have that will never, ever convert into a sale.
Beyond premature zooming, we also often ignore what the book calls the elephant in the room, those big scary questions that, while maybe not directly related to a customer's immediate need, do actually de-risk or completely re-risk the entire business. This means getting fascinated by interesting problems while totally overlooking crucial existential failure points lurking beneath the surface. It's like you're excitedly digging for small pottery shards while a giant, unexcavated mastodon skeleton is about to collapse your entire site from underneath.
That's a fantastic way to put it. Because startups typically depend on multiple factors for success, right?
Mhm.
And ignoring any one of them can be fatal. For example, imagine a brilliant product for teachers in underfunded schools that addresses a critical need for time-saving tools. You've perfectly validated the teacher's pain. They love it.
Seems great.
But if you obsess only over the teacher needs and ignore the elephant, that these schools might simply not have the budget to pay for your solution, or they have a ridiculously complex procurement process, you're headed straight for the Deadpool, regardless of how good your solution is for the individual teacher. You need to address all potential failure points, both customer market risks and product risks, not just the ones that feel comfortable or interesting to talk about.
Let's consider a public speaker marketplace idea. An ambiguous conversation might go something like this. A professional speaker says, yeah, I get paid maybe 2 or 3 grand per talk, and most of my work comes through people who just know me from my blog. When you pitch the marketplace idea, they respond, man, that's awesome. Look, if you could get me more gigs or maybe better paid ones, I'd happily drop my agent and pay you 20% of the boost. This sounds like gold, right? Clear need, payment model, willingness to switch. But is it really validation?
Not entirely, and this is subtle but critical. While the speaker's need is clear and they've even specified a price point, that crucial little phrase, if you could get me more gigs, shifts the entire burden of success onto your product.
The if.
Exactly. This highlights a crucial distinction that often gets overlooked. Product risk versus market risk. Product risk asks, can I actually build this thing? Can I make it work? Can I grow it? Will they keep using it? It's all about your execution. Market risk, on the other hand, asks, do they really want this? Will they actually pay for it? Are there enough people like them out there? It's about the customer's inherent need and their willingness to act. In that speaker example, they're not truly validating the market need unconditionally. They're saying they'll pay if you solve the product risk, if you can actually build a product that demonstrably delivers more gigs. The risk is still mostly on you. Other examples help clarify this. Think about a farm animal fertility monitor for farmers. The major risk there was product risk. They just couldn't build it reliably and affordably at the time. Or mobile deals for bars and clubs. The huge risk was product risk again. Can we amass a huge audience of consumers and get them to actually use it frequently? Video games are often almost pure product risk. If yours is incredibly good and fun, people will buy it. But making it incredibly good and fun is a massive if. The implication here is crucial. When product risk is heavy, when the core functionality itself is highly uncertain or requires massive upfront investment or network effects, you simply can't prove as much through conversations alone. You'll likely need to start building the product earlier with less certainty and understand that your customer conversations will mostly de-risk the market side. Do they want it? Not necessarily your ability to actually build the solution they want. You have to understand which elephant in the room you're actually trying to tackle with your conversations.
That's a really critical distinction, knowing what kind of risk you're trying to de-risk with each conversation. So, to help us navigate these tricky waters, what's a practical tool we can use to ensure we're consistently asking the right questions and not just, flailing around digging random holes?
A truly invaluable practical tool is simply this. Always pre-plan the 3 most important things you want to learn from any given type of person. This isn't a rigid script. Think of it more like a compass for your conversation.
Just 3 things.
Just 3. This simple act of pre-planning your list of 3 makes it significantly easier to ask questions that pass the mom test, avoid that bias we talked about, and most importantly, consciously confront those scary questions you might otherwise shrink from. It guides the conversation, gives you a clear mental agenda, and it even allows you to capitalize on those serendipitous encounters, like bumping into a speaker at a conference and immediately being able to ask, hey, quick question, how did you end up getting this gig? Where do you find most of your clients? Because it's one of your top 3. These big 3 questions should be dynamic, of course. They should evolve as you learn, ensuring you're always focusing your digging efforts on the murkiest or most critical unknowns that directly impact your biggest business risks.
Okay, so we've covered what to ask and how to frame those questions to get good data. Now let's talk about how we actually interact with potential customers in a practical sense. Steve Blank's classic 3 meeting structure, you know, problem, solution, sales, it's well known, foundational even in lean startup circles. But for really early stage founders, it can be incredibly inefficient and sometimes just plain difficult to execute.
Yeah, it could feel quite formal and slow.
Right. The book points out that the true time cost of a 1 hour meeting is more like 4 hours, once you factor in all the scheduling back and forth, the commuting or travel, the prep time, the review afterwards. This kind of overhead, especially for a lean startup trying to move fast, can be a killer. You simply can't afford that level of inefficiency in your archaeological expedition. You need faster feedback loops.
Precisely. Yeah. And that's why the mom test advocates so strongly for keeping it casual. These conversations, especially the early ones, should ideally be so fast and lightweight that they can happen almost anywhere, seamlessly integrated into your day. Imagine attending an industry meetup, genuinely connecting with people over a drink or coffee, and leaving with maybe a dozen valuable customer conversations under your belt, each potentially as insightful as a formal meeting, but without any of the friction or bias that formality can introduce.
Less pressure, too.
Way less pressure. The critical insight here is that the initial problem conversation, where you're simply trying to understand their world, their current reality, their pains, doesn't actually need to be a formal meeting at all. In fact, as you said, formality often introduces bias and makes people clam up or put on a professional mask.
This brings us to what the book calls the meeting anti-pattern, which is this common tendency we have to relegate every single opportunity for customer conversation into a rigid calendar block. It's almost like you're on a great first date, getting along famously, the sparks are flying, and then right when the connection is happening, you try to formalize it by saying, this has been wonderful, let's schedule another date at a different coffee shop at a different time, maybe in 2 weeks. You just killed the flow. You've introduced all this formality where casual connection was actually thriving.
Yeah, exactly. You've made it weird.
Totally weird. Rob Fitzpatrick recounts a perfect example of keeping it casual working beautifully. He was exploring a product idea aimed at making office managers more efficient. He wasn't scheduling formal interviews or anything. Instead, at an industry event just over a beer, he was simply being interested and chatting with them, asking natural questions like, hey, X seems really annoying, how do you guys deal with it?
Just normal conversation.
Just normal conversation. Within 5 minutes, just by listening and asking these mom test style questions, he learned that the real big problem for them wasn't general efficiency, as he'd assumed, but specifically debt collection from clients. He basically disproved his entire initial idea in 5 minutes without a formal meeting, without introducing any bias, simply by engaging in a genuine, casual conversation.
It's a powerful testament to keeping it casual. Learning from customers doesn't mean you have to be wearing a suit and drinking boardroom coffee. Far from it. These quick, genuine chats are often actually a pleasure for both parties because, let's face it, you're probably the first person in a long time to be truly interested in the petty annoyances of their day without immediately trying to sell them something.
That's a great point. People like talking about their problems if someone genuinely listens.
They do. They feel heard and valued, and you gain invaluable insights. Early conversations can be incredibly short, sometimes as brief as 5–15 minutes. Later, deeper discussions about specific workflows or broader industry insights might naturally take an hour or more, but the casual, low-overhead approach means you can have many more of these interactions, leading to faster, richer learning overall.
Okay, so we've mastered the art of gathering facts casually. Once you've collected those crucial facts and you truly feel you understand their world, their pains, their priorities, it's eventually time to zoom in again and start revealing our idea. Now, this does invite compliments again, doesn't it?
Yes, the compliments will likely come flooding back in at this stage.
But the good news is you're now armed with enough knowledge about their actual lives, their specific problems, that you can effectively cut through the false positives by asking for commitments. This is really where the rubber meets the road, where you find out if the interest is real.
This is exactly where advancement and commitment become your unwavering compass, guiding you through the final, crucial stages of your dig towards validation. Advancement simply means moving to the next logical stage in your sales or validation funnel, getting closer to a real business relationship. Commitment, on the other hand, means the customer gives up something they genuinely value, usually their time, their reputation, or their money.
Things that cost them something.
Precisely. This is the ultimate differentiator between those zombie leads, the friendly, encouraging prospects who seem interested but will never actually buy, and real potential paying customers. Every meeting, every significant interaction from this point on either succeeds, meaning it ends with a clear commitment to advance, or it fails, meaning it ends with just a compliment, a stalling tactic, or some vague promise about the future. And the real failure here isn't getting a no. It's not even asking for a commitment, often because you're still avoiding a scary question, or maybe you haven't figured out your clear next steps yourself. Commitment is how you truly know if people are telling the truth about their interest, and if they genuinely value what you're offering enough to invest something real.
And it's really important to remember that commitment isn't just about cash, right? There are different currencies of conversation, as the book puts it. Time commitments are incredibly valuable early on. These could include agreeing to a clear next meeting with specific goals, sitting down to give you detailed feedback on wireframes or mock-ups, or actually using a prototype or trial for a non-trivial period, something that genuinely costs them effort and interrupts their normal workflow.
Absolutely. Time is a huge commitment. Then there are reputation risk commitments. These are often even more powerful because people guard their professional reputation quite fiercely. Examples here include agreeing to an introduction to their peers or maybe their boss, or a key decision maker within their organization. Or, even stronger, agreeing to provide a public testimonial or case study if your product actually works for them.
Putting their name on it.
Exactly. And of course, the most straightforward currency.
Right.
Financial commitments. These are pretty undeniable, things like a signed letter of intent, especially if it has teeth, a pre-order with a deposit, or an actual upfront payment. Often the strongest commitments combine multiple currencies. For instance, someone agreeing to a paid pilot program with their entire team risks their time, their department's money, and their own professional reputation if it goes badly. Conversely, a simple compliment costs them nothing, so it's worth exactly nothing as validation data. You have to look for that actual investment, that skin in the game.
Okay, let's do a quick fire round. Good meeting, bad meeting. I'll give you a common customer response after you've maybe shown them a prototype or explained the idea, and you tell us if it's a good sign, commitment advancement, or a bad sign, compliment stall. Ready?
Ready? Let's sort the genuine artifacts from the worthless rubble.
Okay, response 1. That's so cool. I love it.
Gad. Pure compliment, zero actionable data, zero commitment. Politely ignore and move on or ask for specifics.
Response 2. Looks great. Let me know when it launches.
Bad. Classic compliment, plus a stall tactic. This exact phrase, sadly, sunk the first startup I worked at to the tune of $10 million, according to Rob. It sounds nice, but it's almost always a polite brush-off. Means nothing.
Response 3. I would definitely buy that.
Bad. Danger. Danger. That's the deadly fluff we talked about earlier. Fuzzy future promise, massive false positive risk. They think they would. Maybe they even want to think they would, but their actions rarely follow unless backed by immediate commitment.
Okay, response 4. All right, so what are the next steps?
Good. That shows genuine interest in moving forward. It indicates advancement and engagement. They're looking to act, not just talk. Follow up immediately with specific next steps.
Response 5. When can we start the trial?
Maybe good. It depends entirely on what they're giving up. Is the trial cheap or zero effort for them to try? Or does it require significant setup, data migration, team training? How much commitment in terms of time, resources, or potential disruption is actually involved? You need to dig deeper to confirm if it's real commitment or just easy curiosity.
Response 6. Can I buy the prototype right now? Like today?
Great. That's pretty much the ultimate commitment, especially early on. They want it so badly, they're willing to pitch for an unfinished, potentially buggy version. That's a huge, huge signal of strong need.
And response 7. When can you come back to talk to the rest of the team and give them a demo?
Good. Definitely a strong signal, especially in B2B or enterprise sales. It indicates internal buy-in, a willingness to champion your idea, and a clear path to potentially expanding within their organization. They're investing their colleagues' valuable time, which is a significant commitment.
So it's vital to know how to fix bad meetings, right? If you realize you're leaving with just those wishy-washy compliments and vague promises, you can often save the meeting, or at least learn more, by circling back and pushing gently for some form of commitment. The goal always is simply to learn if you've truly found a must-have product and a real customer. It's often not too late to try and re-steer the conversation towards a concrete next step, even if it feels a bit awkward.
And this is really where crazy customers, or what lean startup folks sometimes call early evangelists, come into play. These are those rare, precious individuals you find who are truly emotional about what you're doing. They want it so badly that they're willing to be the crazy person who tries it first, to endure the bugs, to put up with imperfections, because the problem you're solving is just that profound, that painful for them.
They feel the pain acutely.
Exactly. They have the problem, know they have the problem, have the budget, or can find it, and have often already cobbled together their own makeshift solution. You need to look for that deep emotion, that raw, unvarnished statement like, "That is the worst part of my entire life, and I will pay you anything right now to fix it." Okay, maybe slightly less dramatic, but you get the idea. These are your true first customers, the ones who will give you brutally honest feedback and real commitment because they're truly desperate for a solution. These are the solid gold artifacts you're really seeking in your dig.
Okay, so we know what to say it, how to interpret the responses, and how to push for commitment. But where do these mythical customers, these early evangelists, these sources of truth actually come from? It can feel incredibly challenging, especially early on, just to drum up cold leads. And the ultimate goal, frankly, is probably to stop having cold leads eventually. Ideally, your first few cold conversations should lead directly to warm introductions, creating this sustainable chain of learning, right? Like finding one part of the artifact, knowing it will likely lead you to others nearby.
Absolutely. There are two main approaches discussed: going to them and bringing them to you. For going to them, you could consider strategies like, yes, even cold calls or emails. The rejection rate is almost irrelevant if you manage to get just 2 or 3 valuable conversations that start the warm intro train rolling.
Just need a couple to start.
Exactly. Seize those serendipitous encounters we talked about at a party, a coffee shop, a conference, where you can naturally transition into asking your most important mom test style questions without it feeling forced. Find good excuses like complimenting a cafe's amazing coffee as a way to speak to the owner about their bean supplier, which can then lead into gently probing their bigger business challenges. Or really immerse yourself in their world, maybe by giving free talks or workshops at industry conferences, positioning yourself as an expert and naturally tracking those who are experiencing the problems you're trying to solve. And then for bringing them to you, you could consider organizing targeted meetups, like an HR professionals happy hour or a local indie game developers brunch. This instantly gives you credibility within that group and makes it easy to chat in a relaxed setting. Speaking or teaching opportunities, even small ones, allow you to refine your message, establish authority, and naturally attract potential customers or advisors who resonate with your insights. Industry blogging, even if you don't have a massive audience initially, can establish credibility over time and draw in like-minded individuals searching for solutions. And sometimes you need clever hacks, like organizing a knowledge exchange call for university department heads focused on a specific industry trend you're interested in that can give you direct access to high-level contacts wrestling with the very problems you care about.
But in all of this, you're right. Warm intros really are the gold standard. Conversations are just infinitely easier when you get an intro through a mutual friend or a trusted contact because it immediately establishes credibility and provides a legitimate reason for you being there that isn't just a cold pitch. It lowers all those initial barriers and defenses.
Totally. And how do you get them? Well, leverage what the book playfully calls the 7 degrees of bacon. Just ask your friends, your coworkers, your family, if they know anyone, or anyone who knows anyone in your target segment. You'd be genuinely surprised who's connected to whom just a few steps away. Industry advisors can be invaluable, sometimes offering a small amount of equity in exchange for access to their network, and strategic guidance can pay off hugely. University professors are often a goldmine for high-level industry contacts and deep academic experts. Investors, if you have them, also have extensive Rolodexes and are usually incentivized to help you connect with potential customers or partners. And don't be afraid to strategically cash in favors from people you've helped in the past, or even from those past brushes off, using a well-framed request for an introduction that shows you respect their time and their connection.
Now, when a more formal meeting can't be avoided, when you really do need that dedicated time slot, the right explanation and framing can do wonders to set the right tone from the outset. You want to avoid language like, "Can I interview you?" or "Can I get your opinion?" because that sets the wrong expectations, sounds needy, and can lead directly back to those biased, unhelpful answers.
Yeah, framing is key for those scheduled interactions. A good framing usually has 5 key elements working together to establish mutual respect and a clear, non-salesy purpose. Vision framing, weakness pedestal ask.
Okay, break that down with an example.
Sure, let's say you're trying to understand office rentals. You might say, "Hey Pete, I'm trying to make desk and office rental less of a pain for new businesses." That's your big picture vision. "We're just starting out and honestly don't have anything to sell yet, so this definitely isn't a sales call." That's the clear, honest framing. "I'm actually having a hard time understanding how it all really works from the landlord's perspective, especially the day-to-day challenges." That's admitting your weakness and need for info. "You've obviously been renting out desks for a while and clearly know the ropes way better than I do." That's putting them on a pedestal by acknowledging their expertise. "Do you think you might have maybe 15, 20 minutes sometime next week for a quick chat where I could just ask you a few questions about your experience?" That's the simple, specific, time-bound ask.
That sounds much better than, "Can I pick your brain?"
Exactly. It tells them you know what you need, that they can make a real difference with their specific knowledge, and that you won't waste their time or just seek their approval. And importantly, once you're actually in the meeting, because you framed it this way, you need to be the one in control of the agenda, guiding the conversation towards your learning goals.
Speaking of meetings, there's often this debate, commute or call. Many people default to calls thinking it's more efficient, saves travel time, etc. But is the added volume of calls really worth the information you lose by not being in the room? For example, some might argue that for a global market, calls are just essential.
Well, calls can certainly expand your reach, especially across time zones. That's undeniable. But in most early-stage validation situations, I'd argue, no, the added volume is often not worth the information you lose. You lose incredibly valuable face and body language cues, the slight hesitation before answering, the subtle eye roll, the unconscious fidgeting that signals discomfort, or the genuine lean-in that shows excitement. These are crucial artifacts in your dig that get lost over the phone or even video sometimes.
Good point.
Furthermore, it can subtly damage that delicate power dynamic. Calls tend to feel more formal, less casual, and they fundamentally don't build the same depth of in-person relationships that are often needed for generating those crucial warm intros later, or for co-creation, or just building profound trust. So while there are certainly instances where calls are the only practical option and can be made to work with careful attention, starting in person whenever possible helps you avoid using calls simply as an excuse to avoid the potential awkwardness and the richer insights of real human connection. Even if you eventually transition to calls for follow-ups, those initial in-person connections can be invaluable.
That makes a lot of sense. Those nonverbal cues really are so important when you're trying to understand genuine feelings and conviction. And here's another really powerful mindset shift the book suggests, something called the advisory flip. The idea is, don't go into these discussions looking for customers. Instead, go in search of industry and customer advisors.
Yes, this is such a useful reframe. This mindset deliberately forfeits the position of power that you might think you need as a seller, but paradoxically, it gives you a much clearer, more powerful purpose: to find helpful, knowledgeable people who are genuinely excited about your problem space and might be willing to guide you.
How does that change the dynamic?
It completely changes the context.
Yep.
It shifts the meeting from a potentially awkward customer learning, but I really want to do sales dance, to a much more straightforward, let me find out if you are a good advisor for me by asking lots of questions and valuation. Counterintuitively, this puts you firmly in control because you are now evaluating them as potential advisors rather than them evaluating you as just another vendor trying to sell them something. People genuinely love to share their expertise and feel valued for it, and this framing taps directly into that human desire. It helps them feel valued, and it helps you learn immensely.
So all these conversations, whether they're casual chats over coffee or more formally framed meetings,
Hmm.
they really need a process wrapped around them, don't they? You can't just go through the motions randomly and expect consistently good results. You need a structured approach to managing your archaeological site, your learning process.
Absolutely. A common and incredibly damaging learning bottleneck occurs when, say, the business guy or maybe the lead founder goes to all the meetings alone and then comes back and dictates what I learned to the rest of the team.
The Oracle approach.
Exactly. This effectively creates a de facto dictator where key product and strategy decisions get based entirely on one person's potentially biased interpretation of those conversations. It can easily lead to team members, like a frustrated CPO, quitting because they're constantly changing direction based on misinterpreted signals they never heard firsthand. The learning must be shared promptly, accurately, and ideally experienced directly by key team members, not just filtered through one person's lens. This is why a team-centric process around these conversations is absolutely essential, which naturally leads to three crucial parts of that process: prepping, reviewing, and disciplined note-taking. For prepping, critically, always decide your big three learning goals with your team before the conversation, explicitly including those scary questions we talked about. Know your ideal next steps for that specific person or type of person. Make some best guesses beforehand about what you think the person cares about so you can tailor your approach. And please do basic desk research first to avoid asking obvious questions they can easily answer with a quick Google search that just wastes their time and makes you look unprepared.
Yeah, don't ask them what their company does. The ultimate prep question you should always ask your team, maybe every single time before a batch of conversations, is simple. What do we really want to learn from these guys today? If you can't answer that with clarity and specificity, you probably shouldn't bother having the conversation yet. You're just wasting everyone's time, yours included, and probably digging in the completely wrong spot.
Spot on. Then, after a conversation, immediately review your notes with your team. This ensures the learning is disseminated quickly. Beliefs and hypotheses are updated across the board, and everyone improves their interviewing and listening skills as a team by discussing what worked and what didn't. Critically, whenever possible, at least two people should attend meetings. One primarily talks and asks questions, one actively takes detailed notes. And everyone making major strategic decisions needs to attend some meetings directly, not just one or two, to really internalize the customer's voice and context. And please never ever outsource early customer learning to interns or agencies. It leads to bad signals, glossed over lukewarm responses, and completely lost nuance. The core team has to do it. Finally, note-taking. It sounds basic, but doing it well is crucial. Prioritize taking good, easily retrievable notes and try to capture exact quotes whenever possible. These verbatim quotes are invaluable later for crafting marketing copy, writing fundraising pitches, and even just resolving internal arguments about what was actually said. Using shorthand symbols can really help speed things up. Maybe a happy face for happy, a thundercloud for angry, a flushed face for embarrassed. For aspects of their life, maybe a wrench icon for a pain point, a star for a goal, a roadblock symbol for an obstacle, a squiggly line for a workaround they mentioned, a cloud for general background info. For specifics, maybe a light bulb for a feature request, a dollar sign for money talk, a little person company icon for named entities, and definitely a flag or star for follow-up actions.
Where should you actually write this stuff down? Laptop, notebook.
Good question. While digital tools like Google Docs or Evernote are great for sharing, searching, and retrieval later, typing on a laptop during a meeting can feel rude or create a barrier. Physical methods like a dedicated notebook are classic. Some people love index cards or Post-it notes. They're a personal favorite of Rob's, apparently, because they allow for random access, easy sorting, and visualizing patterns later. Honestly, even paper plates or beer mats can work for those super casual chats. The absolute key, regardless of the method you choose, notes are useless if you don't look at them and actively discuss them with your team shortly after the conversation.
So in summary, this whole before, during, and after process, this structured approach to your ongoing archaeological dig for truth, it's really just a tool, isn't it? It's not meant to be a burdensome obligation.
Mm.
It's actually designed to reduce the total time you spend spinning your wheels in conversations by ensuring you extract the maximum possible value from every single interaction.
Exactly. That's the key takeaway. This stuff is designed to make you move faster, not slower. Don't spend a week prepping for one meeting. Spend maybe an hour as a team. Don't spend months doing full-time customer conversations with very little concrete learning or progress to show for it. Spend maybe a focused week or two to get your bearings, learn your most critical unknowns, answer those scary questions, and build a much clearer path forward based on real evidence. This lean process makes your business move faster and smarter by ensuring you're extracting maximum value in minimum time so you can get back to what truly matters. Building your business, but now with much greater confidence that you're actually building something people want and need. Hashtag outro.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the mom test, the core message really couldn't be clearer, could it? To navigate these treacherous waters of customer conversations, to find that delicate truth without accidentally damaging it, you need these simple yet incredibly powerful rules. You absolutely must talk about their life, not yours. You need to relentlessly ask about specifics in the past, not generics or futures. And perhaps most profoundly, you have to consciously listen more than you talk. Do this diligently, practice it, and you'll consistently gather those concrete facts you need, not the misleading compliments, the fluffy hypotheticals, or those unhelpful feature requests that just distract you from solving the real underlying problems.
And please remember, it's absolutely okay to make mistakes along the way. We all do, especially when you're trying to shift these deeply ingrained habits of wanting validation or pitching too soon. The real key is to notice when you slip up, learn from those mistakes, and improve as a team, continuously refining your excavation techniques together. As Rob Fitzpatrick reminds us, everyone loves an entrepreneur deep down, and people are generally quite willing to forgive earthly blunders if you're genuine. The ultimate goal isn't always being right in every conversation. It's relentlessly pursuing the truth as quickly and cheaply as possible so you can eventually build something truly impactful and valuable.
What really stands out to you from today's deep dive as you move forward with your own ideas, maybe mull over this provocative thought. You own the solution, but they own the problem. How will you use this art of humble, unbiased inquiry to really uncover those deeper, often unarticulated problems that your customers genuinely want solved, the ones they're actively trying to fix already, rather than just building what they think they want or what you think they want, maybe more concretely? What is the one scary question you know you need to ask someone this week that could fundamentally change your understanding of your business and truly de-risk your next big move? Go find that truth.